Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 14 of the Insiders on Real Estate and Marketing. I'm Sandy Hibbard, your host, and this is my co-host, Mark Miller, president of Secured Title of Texas. Hey there.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
Good. I'm excited about this show.
Oh, I am too.
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
Yeah.
We are continuing to celebrate Women's History Month, and we have two very special ladies to help us talk about women in real estate.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be really good.
We're going to let them do all the talking.
I know that. Well, then let's just jump right in. But first, before we do that, I want to remind you that if you have missed any of our episodes, be sure to check them out on theinsiderspodcast.com. They're all there. You can also sign up so that you can be on our list and be notified whenever we have a new show and you don't miss anything. And then, of course, a very special shout out to our sponsor, Secured Title of Texas, a local title company. And they're ready all across the Metroplex to close your residential and commercial transactions. How'd that?
That's cool. I did want to make a comment about, because I did look at too, sort of what was the origination of the Women's History
Oh yeah, tell us.
Month and how that was, and it was actually from a published law in 1981, and then it became a proclamation that became effective March 7th of 82. And I actually went and found the law, which was really pretty amazing when you think about it. This was written almost 40 years ago when that side, and it goes in and notating that women, for all your contributions and everything that you've done throughout history, that period of time, but it finishes with, whereas despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the body of American history. Now, therefore, be it, and that became the resolution of that side.
Cool.
So 40 years ago, Lori and Susan, that's what was the recognition of all the contribution, but yet not the benefits of those contributions. So I thought that was just really interesting.
We're working hard to get those benefits.
You are, and that proclamation just continues through everyone. It was given to the presidents that they proclaimed every year this month of recognizing women. I think it's fabulous. So
I've been creating a lot of content around that this month too, to bring ladies' stories to the forefront. And my little marketing tagline this month has been "Your Story, Our History," and we'll talk more about all that because we're going to hear your stories. So let's meet our guests.
Okay.
I want to start with our very first guest, who is Lori Arnold. She is the leader of a third-generation family-owned company with a sales volume in 2020 of $3.1 plus billion dollars. So this lady's been busy. Coldwell Banker Apex is currently the number one woman-owned and operated Coldwell Banker and the 55th largest brokerage in the U.S. And if that's not enough, Lori's brokerage firm has been named the top 50 fastest growing brokerages in the United States for 2 years now. Obviously, Lori is super busy running her successful company that touts over 975 agents stretched out over 20 offices throughout Texas.
And growing.
And growing.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, Lori, welcome. We're so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
And then our next guest, good friend of mine and colleague, is Susan Sine. And Susan has been with Coldwell Banker Apex for 5 years and been in the industry for 20 years. And then she's recently launched the Bale Sine Luxury Group, which I'm really excited about. And I think she's going to kind of be a disruptor and humanize the realm of luxury real estate. Yeah, and take away a little bit of that stiffness, maybe add a little bit more of fun to it. Despite the transactional value of the property, you can still have fun selling real estate, right?
Always.
Yeah. So we're so delighted to have both of you joining us today.
Really
Thank you.
are,
Thank you
ladies.
for having us.
It's
Appreciate
awesome. It's awesome. I have owned my own agency for 20
years. Yeah.
And that has been crazy stories. And I've been focusing on real estate marketing for those 20 years. And it's fun to get with ladies to swap stories and get ideas. And I remember one little story here I'll share that I was, this was with Prime Lending. I was doing a special realtor group thing with them. And we brought realtors from all over the Metroplex. And one of the ladies in the group one time said, is this kind not very cool that you're bringing realtors in from different brokerages. Aren't they going to steal each other's information? And because it was like a workshop. And everybody was like, no, this market's big enough for everybody. And so me sharing an idea with you that you can take to your market is me just supporting you and us being together. And I've always remembered that. And that's kind of how I view women in real estate. We kind of swap and share because we all have our own unique markets. But things have certainly changed over the years for us. So I want to start off the conversation with both of you asking you about challenges in a woman's business. And let's go back to 20 years ago, roll it forward to the present. What has changed? Lori, you're up.
Okay, a lot has changed, and Mark's been in the business for over 40-something years in the title side. I started when I was 19, so I'm pretty close to that 40,
Wow.
Not quite there yet. But it was funny, you talked about that proclamation. That was the year I became a realtor, was
Really?
1982.
Okay.
And so I grew up in a real estate family, and I think all of our children that grow up in a real estate family say they're never going to do that. And so my mom was an amazing agent, but she really had no interest in growing a company. Back in that time period, she was selling 100 houses a year with no assistant, no staff, no anything. And so she was really amazing. But I was around that 100 houses and said, I'm never doing that. And so my husband and I married really young, first year of college, and decided, that real estate gig doesn't look quite so bad. And so I got my license at 19, worked in the family business. We were a really small company with one office, 5 agents, all family. And I took over the ownership in 1990. And at that point in time, I had a young child. And so I think one of the things that women that own their own business struggle with is that balance between family and
Absolutely.
between our children. And so I went through 2 babies, 2 pregnancies, all of that,
gosh.
while running a company. And so we joined Coldwell Banker in 1993, and I always tease them we probably were one of their very smallest companies that ever, joined into the company. And today we're the 4th largest Coldwell Banker in the U.S. I have 3 men in front of me, all my buddies. But a lot has changed.
Look out, guys.
Yeah. Oh, they know. We are competitive with one another. They know. But, you talk about look out, guys. It's really interesting. Some of the most supportive people for us have not only been women, but it's also been great men that support us in what we do. And that stat that you read of us being the #1 woman-owned Coldwell Banker in the U.S., I didn't even realize it. It was those 3 friends that were above me that realized it and said, you do realize? I'm like, I don't know. Let's check.
That's cool.
And Coldwell Banker did the, research, and I absolutely, So 20 years ago, we just had so many fewer resources than we have now. And I think the resources help us. They allow us to do it more efficiently, which does help us work towards that balance. But one thing about women in real estate, I think we've always had opportunity, and some industries haven't had that. And
Good
so
point.
we don't have the glass ceiling. We don't have those things. But one thing that is interesting is most of the top real estate firms in the United States are not owned by women. So when you look through RealTrend's top 500, over 90% of them are men-owned. And so the sales force is women.
That doesn't surprise me.
The ownership is not.
Yeah.
And so that is very, very unusual. So
Very similar in the title business, Lori.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So lots has changed, but I do think that we have a lot more resources and ability to support one another, and that helps us with the balance and the things that we're looking for
It
as
does,
women.
because I do think one of the biggest things is being able to balance work-life,
It is.
family. And with all of the technology, I think that makes it easier. What do you think?
I agree.
Susan?
I was that agent 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I had young children, so it was a solution to have balance where you could run a business and still be home and still go to soccer games and still be, integrated in your family life at home and still have control of a business. I was telling Lori earlier, though in 20 years, I never really looked at this business as male dominated or female dominated. I never thought about it. I never felt it was in competition on one or the other. I'm kind of a leave it on your field kind of girl. So just do the right thing and operate it, from that kind of stance. So I never looked at it as that competitiveness at all. Just strive to do your best with it and do the right thing. I think women, the opportunity there comes from a sense of empathy and from a sense of understanding. And I think maybe that has a little edge for women in it if they manage it right. I think that's important.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
the other thing is you guys had to multitask
Right.
as
Oh, yeah,
being
we're
a
good at
mom,
that.
as being
Yeah.
a wife, and then the business. So I think that multitasking skill just perfectly
transfers.
transitioned into
It
this
does.
kind of business.
Well, and it
Yeah.
allows us to be able to do things with our families that if you had a 9-to-5 job, you could never do.
Right.
Right.
And so, I had that opportunity when my children were small to be homeroom mother, be reading mom, and still have a very successful career. You can't always do that when you're in a 9-to-5.
Well,
so
the
it
other,
was
the other
really
wonderful
nice.
thing is everybody that you're around while you're doing all that are all prospects
They are prospects.
to buy or sell property. I mean, it's
They
such
are.
a natural conversation to have when they say, what do you do?
Exactly.
And then
That's why women are so successful in
Yeah.
real estate, because that synergy that we have with each other and that understanding, like you said, Lori, that's a great point. We kind of know each other. We know what we go through.
Yeah.
And to be able to have that helps us to reach out and develop relationships, which I think is really important. And about relationships, have you found, and I'll ask both of you this question because I really would like to know the answer, but I think that because of the way that we understand each other and the opportunities that there are now for women leadership, have you found it challenging to find women mentorship in real estate, or has that been something that, obviously you're a mentor in this space and so are you, Susan, but finding mentors for yourself when you were young and just starting your career, what was that like?
I don't know that I had that when I was young, and Susan will have to speak to hers. But I will tell you, one of the things I do love about our Coldwell Banker brand
Yeah.
is that it is very women friendly.
Yeah.
And they recognize this. And so those opportunities, so like right now, we have something going on that's called What Moves Her. And so it's regular webinars, podcasts, all kinds of networking among women within the network. And so those things are happening just sort of naturally because you get exposed to these people who are willing to be that mentor. We're one of the few national brands that our COO is a woman. And you don't see that at that level of
that's very
national
cool.
franchises.
Right.
And so I think that has helped us as a franchise to be very, very aware of it. So.
Has there been anyone that has been a leader for you, someone that you followed that was a female in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, when we joined Coldwell Banker, we were this teeny company, and so I was watching all these big companies and what they did, and who they were. And there is a wonderful lady in San Antonio, Coldwell Banker Deanne Harper, and so for me, Deanne was such a mentor. And Deanne has since retired. Deanne is probably I don't know if it's okay for me to tell Deanne's age. She'd be okay with it, but she's probably in her 80s. And her daughter is my age, and she now runs that business.
That's cool.
And it's been a very neat transition because Deanne is a huge part of the growth that happened for my company. And I now mentor Lisa because even though she's my age, she had never been in the real estate business. So this is new for her running this company. And about a decade ago, Deanne and I put together a group of my top 25 agents and her top 25 agents that every year we meet, and they meet twice a year, and they share all of their ideals. And so yes, Deanne for me absolutely has just been an amazing mentor.
Yeah, I've seen that mentorship really abound and help so many ladies in this space. Susan, was there anybody in particular?
Well,
that
of course, I want
has
to say
been
this lady sitting next to me, and maybe a little bit of the history behind that too. But
Yeah.
when I look back, I think women in general, it's really easy to align yourself with women that tear each other down. But I think there's so many women out there that can empower and can encourage. And I think that's what women do really, really well. I think sometimes the men's side is a little more regimented, a little more structured, and women see behind the curtain a little bit and what really is evoking a need or again empathy or something that forges somebody forward.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
empathy, the intuition that we have, that second sense that women are really gifted with.
Right, and maybe they're not voicing it, and then
Right.
you just kind of have to kind of pull back the layers a little bit and understand what can really help. I've worked in leadership with Lori. I've worked in leadership in the past, in different points of my career, and it's the one thing that stands out to me as empowerment. If you can't surround yourself with people that are empowering, you need to find somewhere else to go.
You need to find someone
You need to
that
find
can.
someplace else to go.
Absolutely, I agree with that. You recently formed a partnership
Right.
with a friend and
Right.
a mentor in the business. And I think that let's use that to launch into talking about teams. I think that we were talking about the multitasking that women do and the multitasking required in real estate. So does it help to have a team? Is it good to have another person or two or three that can help with your tasks?
Yeah, whether it's an immediate team like mine, you know,
Right.
where I have a partner and we really are in a line together. But I mean, I guess I'll even expand on that, even just within Apex. Our whole culture is a team.
Yeah?
So whether it's somebody at our corporate office or whether it's somebody on the manager level or whether it's somebody in relocation or whether it's agents. Here's the thing at Apex, and it's not just about plugging this brokerage, but when you get a key to one office, it opens every office. So there's a platform where it's an acceptance and
Wow,
it's an open and inviting door, and where it really is a culture driven, you know, by Lori and Josh, or her son Josh. He's an integral part of the company. And you know, when I met Lori, this was 5 years ago, I didn't know Apex. I knew Caldwell Banker, but I didn't know Apex at all.
Right.
And I was really seeking, and I was like at the stage of, you know, maybe at that point I was about 16, 17 years in the business, and I was like, boy, I better get this right. You know, I better get this figured out, and I better find the right place to land if I was going to forge business forward. And, you know, I had a, 45-minute conversation with her on the phone, and then we met.
And I was like, she is perfect.
And I
she needs to come here. She
and
is
I
perfect.
literally said at the time, I said, I don't think in 17 years I've ever met somebody in this industry that had that much care. People at the helm usually are behind the scenes and they're bean counting and they're orchestrating things from behind, but she's front and center. The brokerage is front and center. She knows every agent. She's accessible. You know, she works 24/7 doing it, and I don't know how she does it, but that just carries down to other women in our company, all of them, men as well. But I mean, it does carry. It's contagious. You can't help.
It's a trickle down.
It's a trickle
You're
down.
trickling down.
Culture is so important. And I think so many times cultures just happen. They're not something that you think about and you grow. And, you know, you grow as a leader. And probably about a decade and a half ago, I really made the decision. We had started to grow, and we had several hundred agents, and it started to not be fun anymore. And it really felt like it just wasn't fun anymore. And I came home one night and I told my husband that I had a particular agent that had multiple offices upset. And I'm like, how does one person have 3 offices mad at them? You know, and I really made the decision at that point that we were going to start hiring to culture. And so
Good,
we are very serious about
like
it. And
that.
so we tell everyone when we interview them, it's not about them interviewing us, that we're looking for integrity. We're really serious that we have to know that,
I like that.
you know, we do 11,000 transactions a year. We're not going to be there every day. I have to know when that gray area comes up, you know which side of the fence that you're going to land on, and it's got to be the right one. You know, we talk about professionalism. We want agents who are really dedicated to this, that this is their full-time career and they're going to get good at their craft.
Absolutely.
But one of the ones that I think is so interesting, though, is we learned that we say we don't do diva. And we don't do diva in my company.
In the real estate space.
Okay, but
We
you
don't.
want
Gutsy
to
girl.
know how we
We
know
don't.
we don't do diva? Because if the person asks what that means, then they probably are.
They already know. So when we, I will share
love that.
a
Oh,
recent
I love
story
that.
that's really interesting. So we had an interview with an agent that had called us about a $15 million producer, so a really good agent.
Yeah.
And when we said that, they looked at us and said, well, that's going to be a problem because I'm a bit of a jerk. And they actually didn't use the jerk word. And so
wow.
we let them know that we're just not a fit. And they're like, but I sell $15 million of production. And we're like, but you're not going to be happy here because we're not going to let you be a jerk.
And you're going to have $15 million of misery.
And it's not worth it. We turned down a $30 million producer less than 60 days ago. They're known in the market as being a diva. They're not going to work here. So my top producer this last year was around $80 million. He is not a diva. He's one of the most kind,
that.
generous, giving people.
Yeah.
And so when you start not making the bottom line the reason you hire, and you actually hire to culture, changes everything.
does.
And so I can truly tell you, I don't have divas in my company. I have 1,000 agents today.
Wow.
And I don't have divas. And I have some amazing producers at extremely high levels, but they're kind, generous, giving people. And so I do think that culture creates where you support one another.
Yeah.
Whether it's our women supporting women or our men support our women. You know, it's just it's an important culture. You know, I told a broker came down a couple of weeks ago, wanted to see our operation. And he was so focused on those 11,000. We did around 11,000 transactions last year. And he was so focused on that. And at one point I told him, I said, you know, I'm proud of that. And I am. I'm really proud of that number. But I'm way more proud of the culture of this company. Because
cool.
it's different than so many places. So I think we support people better when we hire to have the right people there to support.
It makes sense. I know Mark's got some questions for you, but I want to just ask you one more thing, and that is, do you think that growing up in a real estate house has helped you with these theories and develop your culture? You seem to be so authentic and relaxed and just real about things, which I've known a lot of brokers that I don't get that same feel from. And do you think that growing up in a real estate culture has helped you in all this?
It probably has, you know, but you have to remember the real estate culture I was in was really just our family. It wasn't that there were, and my mother is an amazing agent, but she did not want to take care of agents. She was very clear about that was not her vision. And so, you know, it's funny, I think life just introduces you to different people, different circumstances, and you grow, you know, you grow as a leader. And, you know, I gave you that story about the agent that we let go, that I had grown him. I mean, I had a lot of personal invested in him as a new agent because I knew he was going to be good, making a 7-figure income at a time his average price was about 150. So I mean, he was a really good agent that we let go due to the fact, you know, that our cultures just, you know, did not match. And it made me realize that as a leader, I was saying one thing and doing something else because I allowed it to happen. So I think you grow as those circumstances, you know, come your way. So, and mentors like Deanne Harper help a whole lot too.
That's awesome.
She's amazing. So.
Well, certainly the notation to your growth, and now you're at 1,000 agents, there's no reason to think that that's not going to continue. As that footprint grows, what challenges does that bring to you as managing that brokerage?
Oh, it brings challenges, you know, and we had never really intended to grow beyond DFW.
Okay.
And so we had some opportunities within the Coldbanker
Wow.
network that
You're throughout Texas.
we are throughout Texas now. So we have a Waco location, we have an Abilene, we have Tyler,
Awesome.
we have Bryan College Station, and those opportunities came through my Coldbanker network with other Coldbankers that were ready to have someone else run, you know, run their business. So when you get beyond just, you know, a footprint that you can drive to very quickly and easily, you have to have the right leaders.
Yeah.
And so I have the most amazing group of leaders. Susan was on that group with me, and we enjoyed that time together. And I mean, they're special people. And so I think it's all about having the right person that has your same philosophy.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, you've got to have the same philosophy if you're going to have fun in it.
And that's
Yeah.
the culture you're
So,
talking about.
Yeah.
it's the culture. Yeah, it is.
So you have in that the 20 branches that incorporates what all you just described, is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
And now we've got this not new model, but you certainly see this model coming forth, which is the virtual
Yes.
model side. So that's a little bit, I don't think that's industry changing, but it's industry challenging, if you will.
Right.
And then you got other brands that have come into the market, and they've come up with other kinds of strategies, as we know about. Some of
Right.
those are onboarding, and I pay you to onboard with me.
Right.
What are your thoughts about what's happening in the industry to that side, to the evolution,
You know,
good or bad? Yeah.
It's interesting. I think it always goes back to you have to be competitive. You know, you have to know your competitors and what they bring to the table. It's easy to put the cash on the table to try to hire people. And I can't tell you how many of the top agents that have joined us had that same offer
That's what I
and
figured.
chose to come here for culture. Culture is hard. It is a hard thing to make happen. And when you finally make it happen, I mean, you've got a competitive edge that is a real competitive edge. So it's interesting with the agents that have joined us. I'm going to say 90% of them are referrals from my own agents. And so that also goes to culture. People refer people who are similar. So, and I think some of the models that are out there have some wonderful aspects of them that can be incorporated into any culture. So again, we're 20 offices, we're diverse where we're located. So webinars, we probably, as a company, I'm going to say 60 a month, 70. So I have a full-time education director that she was a $20 million producer and chose to come over to be my education director in our company. And then I have a full-time education director for my new agents because those are very opposite of what needs to happen. So when you look at that virtual model where there is no office and no one's going in, they're taking advantage of the technology. And I think bricks and mortar still needs to take advantage of that technology.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it gives us that opportunity to be close to one another. And it's interesting, my company, my Abilene agents know my Dallas agents as if they were down the street from one another. And so we are very big in social media, in our Facebook pages, our private pages, the way we share information. So I think you can take those models that maybe someone thinks is a disruptor. They're not necessarily a disruptor. There's something about that model that someone thinks is interesting, and there's no reason you can't take the best of those things and incorporate to what you do that is the best of what you do. And I think that's the same from an agent level.
Well, that's where I was going for the agent level. I mean, when I go back and I look where we were, we're hitting on the year mark of a pandemic year, that unprecedented year. And I look back on where we were as a company and what we did for agents back in February and March and April of last year. And why I think we were so successful is because we already had foundation and we already had the knowledge. We didn't have to go and reinvent a new way of working with clients. We had to modify. We had to, we weren't all together in the same room. We had to put safety measures in place. But I'm talking about foundational education. A good example of that, Lori did something back in May. It was called a Mindset Series. And we pulled in top panelists. I don't know, there were 7 or 8 of them over a course of maybe 6 or 7 weeks. And, it allowed us to pivot without compromising service.
That's awesome.
And so that was a big deal. But I think when you're talking about some of these other companies that, there's always going to be a new company.
Yep.
There's always going to be a new technology. There's always going to be something out there. For me, I guess it's about relationships, and it's about the foundation of the building blocks to doing it. So some of it I don't even pay attention to. And then if there is something, it just creates another opportunity. You just you work it differently, your messaging made differently, and you bring it to attention as an opportunity.
Yep.
I think right now what we're going through in the market that we're in right now just forges another opportunity with it. We don't have to be in a fear-based environment with it. We just have to manage it.
Yeah, and this is a completely different storm that we've probably ever navigated through before. We just have so many unusual circumstances. I mean, we all know inventory is the topic of time.
It is.
But we've also got this whole other unrealistic world that's out here, and it's called forbearance.
Yeah.
And somewhere out there, that's going to come to an interesting transactional environment in real estate. Our rates are staying fairly stable. We're going to get a little tick up and down, but we just have so many things that we don't know what the outcome's going to be, that we can't really reach back on our cycles of having been in the business.
Exactly.
We can kind of go by experience. At least it makes us at least contemplative about what we will do and a strategic side of that. So I'm curious, kind of, Lori, how you look at what's happening in that.
Well, and you said something just now, Mark, about you can't look at that history to really know. And so I think that's where it comes back to being able to pivot. You're not always going to know what the future holds, and you're just going to have to pay attention and change as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
So I do think pivoting fast and not just sitting and waiting, it's going to get better. You got to do it quickly, and that's really, really important. And as we went into the pandemic, that was one of the things that I struggled with in helping agents, is because so many of them were fearful, and when you're operating from a place of fear, you're not going to be successful. And we really talked a lot about, you've got to have some courage. If you don't have courage in this business, it's the wrong business for you.
Exactly.
Because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, and a lot of us have been through all those cycles, but a lot of agents haven't.
Yep.
And so I think it's really important that as women, that we support one another, and that we realize that we're not going to operate from a place of fear.
Well,
that whatever it is, we're going to hit it head on.
And you kept them engaged, too.
So,
keeping them engaged. A good example of that is, a lot of not just the women were home, schools changed it. You had people all under one roof, and we had to find solutions so that they stayed on top of their real estate game and finding answers for them, so they could keep doing what they do.
Well, and we pivoted as a company when that started happening, because the more I talked to my agents, the more I realized my moms at home were really struggling.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have time to do any of the activities because they suddenly became school teachers. And so we put our heads together. We did webinars for our moms, our dads that were working at home.
Different times of the day.
We did different times of the day. We
So
put
they had
ideals-
support from you
So they had
guys.
support and ideals from other agents that were making it work.
Yeah.
So I mean, we actually had a series that was about parenting during the pandemic while
great
you
idea.
want to be a full-time agent,
Yeah.
you know. And so you just
Very cool.
you just got to change, you know, when
I'm
those
just
things
glad that
happen.
we had a level of technology in place before the
So
pandemic
important.
hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't, you
Woo.
were really going to have a problem.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
true. And relationships with title companies like yours.
Well,
Because I think that Secured Title of Texas, Mark Miller's in this space, have really been a help
Absolutely.
to real estate brokers and real estate agents across the DFW area. Because it's been a challenging time.
oh yeah.
you
Well,
guys.
everybody teams together when it gets like that. Yeah, we all try to figure out how to help each other.
Well, and you know, I think the pandemic affected us in ways that we are just starting to realize. You know,
Yeah.
as a company, we were very lucky. I mean, and I don't really believe in luck. I believe my agents worked really, really hard. And we ended up being up about 25% last year. You know, market was up 3 to 5. We were up 25. That's a big, big difference. But I think we're starting to realize how much we have missed one another. And so we really made the decision this year that we want to be socially distanced, we want to be safe, but we were not going to do an awards by webinar. And so we got creative. We rented Texas Motor Speedway so that our agents could come and see their faces on Big Hoss, which is bigger than Cowboy Stadium, because we did that the year before. And I don't think I realized until the program was over, they got to do laps, you know, around the Speedway. And as they were coming out, my amazing son, who is our in-house attorney, also works with us, and we were there to cheer them on as they were leaving. And we were watching their faces. I can't even tell you. I don't think I've ever had an award situation that they enjoyed more, and it was because we got to be separate, but we were together.
Yeah.
You were together.
You know, they let us get right outside of our cars. We couldn't do like a big gathering, but socially, you know, distancing and safe, but we felt together. And so I think we have a lot of that still going on, and we don't really realize how tired that a lot of people really are. And so, and that's an important part of supporting each other.
It is.
You know.
And with a
so.
lady like you at the helm and like Susan in this industry, I think we're in good hands. And unfortunately, we're out of time, so we'll have to close. And I just can't tell you thank you enough. It's a pleasure to meet you and to know that there are women out there like you, as genuine and authentic. That's what's refreshing to me.
Well,
is
thank
the
you. I appreciate
authenticness.
that.
Thank you.
Susan, the
Appreciate
same
it.
to you. I hope I see you guys very soon. Mark, I just want to say a special thank you to you because, you know, sometimes we need men to support us.
We do.
If we're in relationships and stuff, we can't be at our best sometimes if we're
do.
hindered by a man. And you were there for me when I launched my first business.
Yeah.
And you're one of my first clients.
Yeah.
And, you know, the cool thing about Mark is that he has always focused on providing opportunities and opening doors for women that he saw with talent.
That's awesome.
He's never been one of those guys that was unapproachable. And so, thank you. As we celebrate Women's History Month, you're part of my history.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So, real quick, Mark, your 3 takeaways from today.
If possible, find a mentor. I just can't, you know, I put that across any space. I have the blessings of having a mentor who's 89, still in the industry, and and we talk
Billy.
every morning at Billy at 8 o'clock every
Oh, that's
morning.
wonderful.
And have for 20 years. But he's my
awesome.
guidepost, so that's one. If you can, figure out how to develop a peer group, support group, however that crosses those lines, but I think that's good. And then just trust your instinct, because it usually leads you in the right directions of that side. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
My takeaways would be running a woman-owned business takes a lot of focus. So don't be afraid to work hard. Focus. Secondly, I think that you need to create a culture. You've really inspired me there. And you know, you might ask, what is a culture? And I think that if you have that question, reach out to me. Let's talk about that. A lot of that has to do with branding. Branding always starts from the top, and it's not just about graphics. It's about attitudes. It's about the way we treat people, you know, and I can see that your brand is very people-oriented, and I think that's super cool. And there's a new camaraderie among women today. Another thing I'm seeing that I really love, I think that our time being alone and sequestered with our children going halfway crazy this last year has really given us all a better understanding of each other. So let's take that out and share it not only with women but with the world, and let's learn to love and be more embracing and more tolerant, and let's kick some tail this next meeting.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Ciao, everybody. We'll see you next episode.